Coach, good to see you.
Good to be here. Good to be seen. Isn't it?
It is always good to be
Is
seen.
it hot or what?
Man, I tell
I
you.
looked at my car a while ago. It's at 97 degrees, but it is August.
And it's in Alabama.
Yeah.
So I would be worried. Well, it is 2020. It'd probably be the first year to have a snowstorm in August, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but
It'd be like 2020.
I'm saying that, and I must be getting soft because just a few years ago I was standing out in this stuff twice a day, and did it for 40 years.
You didn't realize it, did you?
I tell you, you don't really realize, what you put these kids through because you're as used to it as they are, and the average person, and that goes back to think about this. Play the first game normally at the end of August, and those 11 o'clock or 1 o'clock games, and you put 80,000 people up there, and you wonder why you have 500 of them pass out because you're not used to it.
Not used to it.
Yeah.
And the humidity down here is rough, man. It suffocates you. But
cut it with a knife.
Well, what's easiest? I'm gonna ask you straight up: is politics easier or coaching in the SEC?
This is the hardest thing I've ever done.
Hardest thing you've ever done.
Ever done, because a football coach is going to do it right.
You think?
And so you're organized.
Some do.
And you're prepared, and you're going to do everything you possibly can do to do it right. So I've been going about a year and a half, and I could have done it halfway, 3/4, but I hadn't left anything on the field. I told them after the runoff, and we won by 20 points or so. I said, well, at least it paid off, because and then we turned around the next day and hit it again.
Hit the road again.
Yeah.
No rest for the weary, right?
No.
You've covered about every inch of the state, haven't you?
Oh, yeah, several times. And I went to most of the state over a 10, 11-year period, but this is a little different because you deal with people also that are not in sports. They're worried about their livelihood.
Oh, yeah.
And, you go to some places and you talk to farmers and you talk to people in small business after this pandemic, and you talk to small hospitals that are closing down. Then you come to places like this, your radio station where everybody's just looking to try to survive. And but it's a unique state because I'm telling you, it's very diverse. You got the Shoals, then you got Huntsville, then you got Guntersville, then you come down and you got Birmingham all the way across Tuscaloosa, and then you have the Wiregrass, which is totally different.
It is.
And then you got the beach and the ports.
It's got about every type of geographic region you could have in one state.
We got a utopia, and we got great weather. The problem is, we got to get manufacturing back in the state because what's happened is the small cities and rural areas, they've lost their 100-person factory or whatever.
That's devastating to a small community.
When the kids graduate high school, all of them don't want to go to college. Mm-hmm. They want to go to work and raise a family, and there's nothing to do. It's absolutely nothing to do.
Well, it's tough, and like I said, you've been traveling for a year and a half. Well, let's talk about some fun things. You meet a lot of people.
Oh,
obviously, you've met thousands upon thousands of people. Where's a good place for everybody to go? What's your favorite eating joint that you've run across, or your favorite kind of food? Because there's good food in Alabama now.
Yeah, I know now. The areas that you go in. I tell you, I love Mexican food, and there's some good places in Huntsville, and then barbecue.
I was going to say barbecue.
Yeah.
You got to have barbecue in Alabama.
Oh yeah, but it's good everywhere. But around the Birmingham area,
there's some good ones.
Yeah, Dreamland, obviously. And, you've eaten that for seemed like 30 years, and then you go south. Then you have the cornbread restaurants down in the Wiregrass, and then and then you got the seafood down in Baldwin and Mobile County. I went down to visit with the people in the shrimping business, and I didn't realize. Of course, we're big in the shrimping, but we only produce 5% of the shrimp that's eaten in this country on the coast.
Wow.
Only 5%. We don't.
So they're importing all that shrimp.
95. The thing about it is we don't have enough shrimp to feed because we are a shrimp-consuming country, and I'm just kind of amazed by that. But I tell you, they're big into oysters down there, and really learned a lot. I've learned a lot about everything over the year.
You have no choice.
No,
you go to that many places in a year and a half.
Yeah.
You learn. Well, why politics? You retired. you finished up coaching. Why did you decide? Why didn't you go off into the sunset and say, look, I'm gonna go eat me a bunch of shrimp. I'm gonna go chill on the beach, and you decide to jump back in it with both feet.
Well, first of all, why do people get into coaching? And I've always told people that you're somebody that never wants to grow up. You know, you like sports, and so you want to stay involved, and obviously you're too old to play, so you get into coaching. And so I spent 40 years in that. I'm a military brat. My dad fought in World War II, was a hero, died on active duty at age 53. And I missed Vietnam by a year, and I never served in the military, and I've always told my wife I've got an empty spot that I want to give back. And so I worked for ESPN for a couple of years when I got out, and that was fun, but it was still in sports. And so I started thinking about politics, the governor's race in the state, and then I jumped on this Senate race because we have to take it back for the Republicans.
You kicked that governor thing around for a minute, didn't you?
Yeah, 3 months. Yeah, we talked about it, and we did our due diligence in that one and this race. And so I want to give back. I'm not taking a salary. I'm giving my salary to the veterans of the state. And I think it should be public service. And it's, right now, the senator I'm running against won in a special election. He has not spoken for the people of Alabama. I mean, you don't speak for yourself and for your party. You go and represent the people of the state, and that's exactly what I'm going to do.
You, the people in this state spoke pretty loudly on July 14th in the runoff. You won handily over Senator Sessions. Your thoughts on that runoff win, and then have you talked to Senator Sessions since that night?
Oh yeah. It's he's all for us, which I would have been all for him, because we got to get this seat back. And it would I think the people spoke, and everywhere you go, people say, Coach, I like you as a coach, I like you as a person. I like you more because you're an outsider. We're tired of politicians. And it resonated everywhere. That's the reason we got Donald Trump. I mean, Donald Trump was a business guy, contractor, never been in politics, and now is the President of the United States, and has done as good as anybody that's ever been a president since I've been alive. So it was a good race for us. Again, I probably could have eased up, but I said, no, I'm going to run through the finish line like I'm going to in this one. It's 87 days from the day of the election, but I'll go.
It'll be here fast.
It'll be here and gone. And there's a lot of elections, so we're just one of them. When the president's on the ticket, most focus goes on that. But a lot of focus on this one, because we have to retain the Senate as a Republican Party. If we don't, we have no stopgap for the socialists that are taking over in the Democratic Party.
What was it like when President Trump contacted you and said he's endorsing you? What was that like for you?
Well, it was right after the primary, and we've got like 3.5 weeks to go, and I'm driving in my truck to a Turkey Federation meeting. I'm a big turkey hunter.
I love turkey hunting.
Yeah, and so I got Merle Haggard on the radio. I got it blaring.
There you go.
Phone rings.
That fits a turkey hunter.
Yeah. Phone rings, and I'm headed to Prattville, and I turn it down a little bit, and I didn't know who it was. And I get on the phone. This lady goes, Coach, this is Molly from the White House. I said, Molly, how you doing? She said, can you speak with President Trump? I said, yeah, I guess I can.
let me check.
Yeah, so I reach over to grab it, and he said, Coach, what in the world are you listening to? I said, Mr. President, that's Merle Haggard. He said, I loved Merle. We lost him recently. I said, yes, we did. So, but when he jumped on board, again, when he was elected, I didn't sleep for a week. I swear, my gosh, we might have a chance to save this country, because we have been going downhill so fast with all these programs that the Democrats want to put in, and the last administration, the corruptness of that, which we're finding out now, we got a shot. And so we go through this, and then, of course, several even Republicans quit on the president right after he got in, and didn't give him a lot of help. So it was good to know that I'd run for over almost a year, and then he called and recognized that, hey, I'm on his side. I'm going to get on with Coach, and we're going to get this done together. And heck, I talk to him once a week now. He'll call. He called me one morning at 1:43 a.m.
Wow.
Molly was on the phone.
Molly on the phone at 1:43.
I pick it up. I said, Molly, y'all got any clocks in the White House? Because I
don't think he sleeps.
Well, and President Trump was already on there. He goes, Coach, sleep is overrated. I said, yes, sir.
And I truly believe it when he says that. Well, speaking of that and talking about where we are right now, the country's a mess. though. I mean, you know, and that's one thing, and he's battled a lot of different things from impeachment to, you know, all different types of things. So, but you know, what's going on in our bigger cities though right now is it's terrible. I mean, you know, I don't care what side of the political fence you sit on. If you look at it from an American and being an American, when was it? When did it become okay to go and vandalize and burn and destroy public property and nothing happened? I didn't think I'd ever see that in mine and your time. I mean, we've come a long way in this country. And look, trust me, everybody wants racial equality. Everybody wants everybody to have great opportunities. But what's going on now is the real people that were trying to go out and have a voice for change, they're being overshadowed by vigilante groups and people out in the streets tearing things up. They've overshadowed it because they have their own agenda.
Yeah, and you know, I've coached, 80% of the kids I've coached have been minorities. And so I've fallen right in there with them forever. And I've got more kids that are minorities that I've raised, and of course my two at home, my two boys. And it's, you know,
athletics is the great equalizer, isn't it?
It brings everybody together.
It really does.
If we would all go by the game plan of team sports in this country, I mean, we'd have very few problems. But the problem is we've got groups that want to change the government. And so they use a lot of those things to hide behind. And you said earlier, people causing problems in the street. Well, it's anarchy. It's exactly what it is. Mm-hmm. And we can't allow it to happen. We got to support our police. When we lose our police, it is over. This country is over.
I was going to ask you that question here. Is defund the police the most absurd thing you've ever heard?
It's insane.
I mean, what do people understand? If you don't have law enforcement, then it's the Wild West again. It's who's got a bigger gun, who's got more bullets. I mean, it's who's going to protect their stuff. I mean, look, what happened in Minnesota was terrible. I don't think anybody.
Awful.
It was horrendous, and there's a bad apple in every bunch. But you know, I saw Coach Tony Dungy when all of that, right after that happened, he said, we have got to stop broad paint brushing everybody in groups in this country. Every police officer is not represented by that guy. Every, you know, whatever race that we want to talk about, group, or we're not all represented by the one outlier. And he said, we've all got to do a better job in this country of quit stereotyping, and that's what happened there. All of a sudden, all of the police was suddenly stereotyped as this guy, and that's just not the case.
And you know, it's not about policy in this country. Everybody says, you know, it's Democrat and it's not. It's not about policy. It's about common sense. It's about getting along and understanding that we have to have moral values. First of all, we kicked God out of the schools back in the 60s, and look where we're at today. We've got to all come together and
What's their goal? What's the goal here?
Well, they want to change. They want to change the Constitution. They don't like it.
It's worked pretty well for
244 years.
200 plus years.
Yeah, and it's the only reason that we survived as a democracy, as a republic. But they don't like that. They want 2% of the people in this country to run the rest of the 98%. They don't want equality at all. You're talking about inequality. That's what they're pushing. But they're hiding behind other agendas. So you've got groups that are just throwing millions into bringing this country down, and we cannot let it happen as Americans. We've got to understand we're all in this together. But how do you do that? How do you tear a football team up? You divide it. It's the same thing in a basketball team. You tear it down from within and you divide it. You get people talking and mad at each
Against each other.
Well, what are we doing here? Same thing. We're dividing this country instead of bringing it back together. And there's no common sense.
It's a perfect lead into my next point I want to make with you. You're just one man. You know, that's the thing. When you go to Washington, you're just one person. Now, you have to have your party that you align with, but what makes you think you're going to go up there? And I've been listening to you for the last 2 years. It's got to be overwhelming to think, how can I get in there and really make a difference? But you got a great platform. You're saying the things that you believe in, that you think needs to happen. I mean, it's got to be overwhelming a little bit when you look at it from a big picture.
Oh yeah, it's like I mean, the problems never end. Can you imagine being the President of the United States, Donald Trump, and he gets up one day, he's got one problem here, and then on the other side, you've got the Democrats throwing 4 more problems, and then the mainstream media, which is absolutely, totally out of control, trying to ruin this country.
Well, the media doesn't report stories anymore.
Their opinion.
They just give their side.
Well, they're on the side, and they're the ones that's going to eventually tear this country down if we allow it to happen. But we can't do that. We cannot do it. We've all got to understand that we're in this together, and it just really makes me mad just to watch this media, how they don't hold anybody accountable on the left. They don't do it. I mean, and it's really criminal what they're doing. But now the social media part's getting in there, and the social media is just like that, and it's getting real dangerous. It's getting real dangerous for a lot of people. So hopefully we can come to some common sense amongst each other for the next 3 months and get this election through. But again, as you said, listen, I'm gonna go up there when I win. And I went up 2 weeks ago to DC, and everybody knew who it was. It's not when I get there, everybody's gonna wonder, who is this goofball, you know? They're gonna know who I am. I'm gonna listen, but I'm gonna speak my piece, and I'm gonna communicate for the people of this state. I'm going to represent this state. I'm not going to represent a party or a president. I'm going to represent this state, because the guy in there right now represents his party and the far left, and we're not going to allow that to happen.
I want to talk to you just a little bit about Senator Jones. You're running against him, obviously, now in the general election, and we'll see here what 87 days.
I know it.
You got it. I was going to say you probably have
about 12 hours.
Down to the second. Back in February, before even the primary, you had an 8-point lead, according to several. The Alabama Daily News, Mason-Dixon poll had you up by 8. Now, according to the Morning Consult poll, according to AL.com, 17-point lead is what the latest poll shows you having over him. What do you think about polls, first of all?
Some are accurate, some aren't. But as a football coach, and as anybody that coaches, I mean, you're aware of the score.
That was a loaded question. You knew where I was going with that, didn't you?
You're aware of the score, but you don't worry about it.
Did you check polls a lot when you were a coach?
Yeah, really.
Like where?
Yeah, you look how Vegas picked the game. You know, they're pretty good. By the way,
you really do that?
No,
y'all looked at that?
No, I never did that. But a lot of people do, because they just look at it and going, these people know what they're talking about normally, and that's back in football.
Yeah.
But
I bet this COVID thing's thrown a wrench in Vegas.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Especially with this season. We'll get to that here in just a minute.
It's just the COVID's done a whole lot. But I don't. I'm gonna run through the line. I'm not gonna leave anything on the field. I'm gonna run through the line. We're gonna be organized. We're gonna give it our best shot. We're gonna give the people of Alabama an opportunity to know exactly, what I think and how I'm gonna be as a senator. I'm gonna lead for this state, and senator is pretty important now.
Only two of them.
Yeah, only 2 of them from state. And I told people when I got in, this is not an ego trip. If I didn't think I was the most qualified for this, I wouldn't be doing it.
That's why I asked you the question out of the gate. Why jump into this? You've had a career. You've had a successful career. You've got a situation financially. You're in good shape. You can go hang out at the beach, Coach.
Yeah, I've seen how people have lived and have struggled and have done well. Over my 40 years, I've been in homes all over the country. I've been in homes and schools and businesses all over this state. There's not a handful of people up in Washington, D.C. that's been through what I've been through, that I've seen how people have been through some immaculate places and how they live. I've been to some places that you're embarrassed that you're American, how they're living, and everybody needs help.
I think people need to understand, and if you travel around enough and you see some places that we think in our mind that only that happens in a third world country. We've got parts of the United States that are third world countries.
Oh, but I will say this. I've traveled all over the world as a coach. That gave me a lot of opportunities. I was always glad to come home because I mean, there's some places we went to in Somalia and some of those places. I mean, it's something it makes you cry. But you get back here, and we do have some of those places and spots and
little pockets.
And that's what I want to relay in Washington, D.C. Sometimes we we don't look at the big picture. We look at the small picture of dealing with problems. And everybody in this country needs the opportunity to have the best they can get to. But I always told my players this now. You know, this is the greatest country on the face of the earth. I don't hear anybody complaining about playing time or anything. I'm going to play who's best. I promise you that, because I get paid for winning and losing.
You need to win.
So if you're born in this country, you hit the lottery. There's no doubt. I don't care if you're the poorest person in this country. You hit the lottery, because everywhere else is not even close to us. But, you know, the one thing that I always told our players, this country owes you one thing, an opportunity. If you'll take that opportunity, you will be a success. I mean, I was a young, skinny, poor kid from Arkansas, and by golly, they wasn't going to tell me I couldn't be a head coach in football, in college football. I loved it. I wasn't any good. You know, I played college at a small university, and I felt like I had to do that to have the opportunity one day to be a coach. Because, you know, at that time I thought, hey, if you didn't play college football, you know, there's no way you can ever move up in the college ranks. You can, obviously, but it makes it a little bit easier. And I was a punching bag, you know, I was one of those blocking dummies, you know, for 4 years, but I earned my way through it. But I'm gonna tell you, every day I worked to get to that point. And by golly, in 2004, I was National Coach of the Year.
How about that?
I'm thinking, I did it.
Well, you look at where you are sometimes in a moment. It's hard to see where you could be. You coached a guy named The Rock down at Miami. Would he have ever thought when he was playing football, he'd be the most popular actor in the entire world and maybe one of the richest guys in the world now?
Well, one of the most.
While he was playing, I mean, it's hard to look at that in the future.
And a guy that's probably, if you were picking out the most popular people in the world right now, he would be in the top at least 10.
He's one of the most recognizable people in the entire world.
I'll never forget, I was a defensive coordinator when he came in. He was from up northeast, and he comes in. He's a good-looking kid, and I sat him down one day. I said, oh, Dwayne, I says, you know, what's your goals? He said, Coach, I want to be a wrestler. I said, Dwayne, now we need you to play football. he said, Coach, but you know, I got family that's in wrestling. And he said, when I leave here, I want to give it a shot after professional football. And I want to tell you, every day, he was a good player, solid, worked hard. Unfortunately, he played behind Warren Sapp. Now, that Warren might be the best defensive lineman ever to play. But he played quite a bit. He was a big part of our team.
But he learned a lot.
And he came in after every practice, and he would lift weights by himself. He wanted to get bigger. And, you know, because he felt like that would help him not just in football, but also in wrestling.
That's got to stand out as a coach.
Yeah.
Self-determination when it's easy, been practicing all day, just pack your stuff up, head out with everybody else, you go in there and hit the weights.
And I never forget this. I'm sitting with Tucker, my oldest, who at that time was about a year and a half old. And I'm playing with him in the room, and I got a TV, and I'm kind of flipping through channels. And I was head coach at Ole Miss. And I hit a wrestling match. And so I'm sitting there and look at that, and then the guy comes off the ropes, you know, and they call him The Rock. I said, heck, that's Dwayne. He's made it. Yeah, he made it.
He wanted to be a wrestler, he told you.
Yeah, can you imagine what he's done? There's no telling. And he just bought a football team.
He just bought the XFL.
Yeah.
He didn't buy a team. He bought the league.
Bought the league.
He bought the league. You know, that's kind of what I was, you know, I saw footage of him a few weeks ago playing for Miami when you were down there. And I was sitting there thinking to myself, him in that moment as a college kid, could he have even envisioned where he is now? I don't think you can. And he's just another football player. You know, he was a good football player, but he's just another player trying to do the next thing to get by in life, to the next step. Now he's one of the most popular people in the world, one of the richest people in the world.
And what other country could have given him that opportunity?
That's kind of where I wanted to go.
None. I don't care how good you are in soccer, you know, over there, and they've got some great soccer teams with Pele. Me and you grew up with Pele and those guys.
Absolutely.
But he didn't go make what Dwayne's making or The Rock's making, you know, in the movies.
He's a great actor too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably
I'm gonna tell you one other thing. He's a great kid too. I mean, yes sir, no sir. One of those. Sometimes you wanted when I was coaching, wanted to be a little bit more of a hard-nosed, guy that
Pound on him a
pound
little
somebody.
bit.
Yeah,
That's right.
but he was tough, but he just wasn't one of those. He was a nice young man.
Well, he just, I mean, that's an amazing story, and I wanted to talk about that because I knew you coached him. Coach, a couple things here. First of all, mail-in voting. I just got to ask. Look, as just a normal citizen of this country, I'm concerned about it. It has nothing to do with parties. How do you verify a mail-in vote? I mean, an absentee ballot is tracked. You know who's got it. You send it. If we're sending, look, the IRS sent out checks to however many million people that had already passed away, and if they can't track that, how are they going to track a vote? And how do I know that mail-in vote got to the right place and the right person? It's just there's way too much manipulation and fraud possibility, in my opinion. As a citizen, it has nothing to do with parties. That's just my concern.
Your vote is one of the most precious things in your life that you have in this country. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't take advantage of it, but they should. One day they're going to wish they had them.
Yeah.
But I'm like you. Go express your vote. Now, we polled that in this state. In Alabama, between 80 and 85% said, listen, we want to make sure our vote counts. We're going to go, we're going to mark it, and we're going to put it in that computer. We're not going to do it unless we vote at. Now, I'm going to tell you, absentee is pretty good.
That's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, you got to have two witnesses
that's
and
right.
identification.
It's verification.
Yeah,
but a mail-in vote is just you get it in the mail. Who signed it? Who got it? What if somebody stole your ballot out of your mailbox?
Yeah, and if you also look at the election that we just went through, the 14th, it's probably going to be a lot more virus around the 14th of July than it will be November the 3rd, okay? And so it's going to start hopefully winding down.
Yeah.
I don't know anything for sure, but hopefully it is. But don't you think one other situation? I was listening to President Trump the other day. He said, they had on the same date that we had an election. New York had an election. I think it was July 14th.
It was July 14th.
Yeah, July the 14th. And they had an election, and they had a lot of mail-in votes. They still hadn't figured out who won. What's it been a month? It's been a month. So there's no way we can do that. There's no way we can say
across a whole country.
Yeah, wait for 2 or 3 months.
I heard
to have
arguments from some people saying, well, my job won't allow me to get off during the time to go vote. Well, that's why you have absentee ballots,
Exactly.
and that's why you know ahead of time if you really want to vote and it's important to you, you go ahead and line that up and you get it taken care of. But makes me nervous.
When we went and voted on July 14th, if you remember this, they had usually retired people run the polls.
That's right.
They were well protected, shielded.
They were.
Everybody did good. They were 6 feet apart. I mean, come on. I mean, we're the smartest country in the world, most progressive. We know how to do things.
I want to shift gears a little bit. COVID-19, nobody saw this coming. I mean, we deal with viruses. We've had, the swine flu and the bird flu and
SARS and all that.
We've had a lot of different things, but this one was different, Coach. We've been in a haze since March 13th and up until now, and there's really no end in sight, and it's affected every phase of life.
Yeah. It's dangerous. They scared everybody to death. I can remember the day they come out and they canceling schools and canceling.
Still trying to figure out what's going to go on in school.
Yeah, canceling the primary and a runoff and moved it back. And they said, we're going to lose 2 to 3 million people here in the next year. And I go home to my wife and said, my gosh, I mean, this thing's going to be bad. Now, it has been bad. We've lost, 165,000 people. But the worst thing about it is how contagious it is. And it is contagious. I just lost a friend last week in Auburn. He didn't have it. I saw him a month beforehand, and he was a little bit overweight and had diabetes, and he got it and didn't make it. I mean, if you've got underlying conditions,
you're a big target.
You better take care of yourself.
Mm-hmm. You better stay out of it.
Yeah, but we're a smart enough country now, and me and you talked earlier about this before we came on the air. We couldn't have shut the country down like we did 5 years ago. We didn't know how to do it. We didn't have the Zoom, and we had computers, but we didn't really have the technology.
You didn't have social media to this extent. You had social media.
Yeah.
Social media's been around for a decade or so,
Yeah.
but I mean, to this level.
Yeah. but it would have been harder for us to shut it down. And, the SARS was bad, back in, I don't know, 2008, 9, or 10, somewhere in there.
It was
and
2008, 9.
Yeah, this is like the SARS. This is a kind of a cousin of it, but it's not going to be the last virus we have.
Well, that's what I said the other day on another show. I said, well, what's going to happen in 4 or 5 years when we have another one hit? Are we going to do this all over again?
Yeah.
I mean, how much more can we take in this country? So, state education. I mean, this has affected. I mean, basically, kids have been out of school since March, and so now we're trying to figure out how to get them back in school, and it's basically state by state basis.
Yeah.
And we're scheduled to go back to school here in the state of Alabama in a few weeks. Some are going virtual, all virtual. Some are deciding to try it to go back in the classroom. We got to get kids back in school.
You just got to think about this, and you hope this doesn't happen. What if it's here 3 years from now? The same thing. I mean, we got to take every inch that it gives us. Now, they're talking about vaccine, and that's all and good, and hopefully that helps. But a vaccine doesn't work about 15, 20% of the time.
I was going to say that's not the savior.
Yeah, we've got to have something that cures it. When you get it, we know that you can take it, that it can knock it out.
That's right.
But we don't have that. It's the infection. It's got everybody in a turmoil, and everybody wants to be protective. I'm for wearing masks. If we can save one life wearing a mask, wear the mask.
Of course.
But
Absolutely.
it's amazing to me that we've got so many people pushing back and not going to school, and again, it is dangerous. But child abuse has doubled since we've gone out of school, and a lot of times the child abuse is detected by teachers when they go back to school. So that's really doubled. And then
how many kids, that's
drugs.
their best meal of the day?
Oh, yeah.
When they go to school.
Only meal.
Only meal.
Yeah. And think about this other thing. In this state, one of the main factors is only half the kids in the state have internet. Most of them can't go home and get on this computer.
I'm surprised it's that high.
Yeah.
I
It's about, I think there's 800,000 people in this state that don't have internet. And so you're talking about put a group of kids behind, perfect scenario. So we've got I heard a great podcast the other day, I forget the name of it, but this guy was talking about, he says, the 4-year-olds to the 16-year-olds need a voice. They can't speak for themselves, so grown-up people are supposed to make decisions for them. And let's make the decision, let's get them back in school and protect them. That's what we're here for.
That's a threat to national security in itself when you don't have your kids getting educated.
Oh,
I mean,
there's no doubt.
I'm concerned about my children. I've got an 11-year-old and a 16-year-old, but you think about kids that are going into kindergarten or first grade or second grade, they miss 2 or 3 of those formidable years, fundamental years. It's tough. I want to ask you about community colleges real quick. Community colleges in the state as far as economic development. I know you're big into economic development and workforce development. That community colleges have probably their biggest role ever here in this country as far as an educational arm for a choice, an affordable choice, a quality choice, and then what it does to bring industry into states like Alabama.
I was on Air Force One with President Trump, and we were
How
talking.
is that, by the way?
It's not bad.
I mean,
I told the president when I got back to Auburn I was going to get me one of them.
That's a pretty cool experience.
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
So.
And it was good. I was sitting, thought with Attorney General Barr and Ben Carson, Secretary Hudd, and Jared Kushner. It was neat.
I'm sure it was.
And so the president told me, he said, Coach, now listen, you're going to be the next senator of Alabama. And your job is going to be big because you've got plenty of areas for manufacturing. They're coming back. Now you got to fight for them. You got to go out there and sell them. Well, who else better to sell than a football coach, to get manufacturing come back in the state.
You have to recruit.
That's going to be one of my priorities. But on the other side of that is we got to have somebody to work. And our workforce development right now is getting better.
But that's where the community colleges come in.
Exactly. 2-year schools. And I'll tell you, I've been to most of them in the last year and a half, just talking to them. I've been very impressed with the presidents and the professors, and they train kids to work with their hands, do things. Of course,
Building, industrial automation.
Nurses.
That's right.
We've got one over in Jasper that teaches how to mine, go down in mines, in the coal industry.
Sure.
Farming. It's unbelievable what we do. And the one thing I want to say too is every kid doesn't need to go to a 4-year school. I've always said that.
Oh man,
It
I'm
is,
telling you.
and you can go in and I used to argue with my players. They'd come in and we'd talk about their future and, Coach, I'm gonna major in this. I said, for what? You can't get a job when you get out. I said, I'm gonna pay $150,000 for you to get a degree in that, and when you get out, you're gonna have to go to Walmart and get a job.
Yeah, there's nothing out there for you.
Nothing for you. So
You go get you a welding, go into welding, and you can name your price. You can go where you want to go.
welding, plumbing, electricians,
We're opening up
nurses.
one here in Central Alabama Community College here in Alexander City.
Oh, it's
A
unbelievable.
marine tech program
Yeah.
we're opening this fall.
It's awesome.
I mean, because there's such a demand for marine techs,
Yeah.
working on boat motors,
Yep.
stuff like that. We do a Google IT certification degree, a certificate for students that can go out and get high-paying jobs. They don't have to go get a 4-year degree and spend all that money. They can go to a community college and get a good education. But it's key for workforce development.
Oh, we got to start it. And I tell you, there's been some schools, high schools, that have started now, starting in the 9th grade. They're having them pick a vocation, and they've got to take it for 4 years.
That's right.
And that way, you know, they might not do it, but they will know something about it, and they might, hey, I might want to do this instead of going and getting a degree that's not going to mean anything. And so, but I'll tell you something other two. I've been traveling. I go through these industrial parks all over the state. There ain't one of them that's not looking for people to hire. I'm talking about good jobs.
High-paying
So we're talking about moving more manufacturing here, and we can't fill the ones
Can't
that we
fill- That's
got.
the problem. And I think in the community college level, they see that, and that's why there's such an emphasis on training, and that being the training arm, especially for the state of Alabama,
Yeah.
because we do have a lot of room.
Even-
President Trump's right.
yeah.
We have a lot of room for more people
Well,
to come.
in this pandemic, there's jobs everywhere. I mean, they're everywhere. And we've got to get people in those jobs.
We got to
and-
get people off the couch getting $600.
Well,
a week.
We're creating a scenario where who wants to work? But it's all coming from the left. I mean, I'm telling you, this country gives you an opportunity. It doesn't owe you anything, but it owes you that opportunity to do what you want to do.
Well, if everybody stopped working, there's nothing to produce. You don't. What are you going to buy with the money?
Yeah.
I mean, if there's nobody working in the food industry, you know, if there's nobody working in whatever service industry out there, what are you going to buy with it? So
Oh, yeah.
you have to have people in your society working jobs. You're right. Let's shift gears.
All right.
We'll talk some college football.
All right.
I mean, are we going to have a season?
I think we will. I think we'll fight through it. And again, as I said earlier, we've got to go back to school. I mean, the NCAA said if you're not in school, you're not playing.
That's right.
So we've got to go back to school. And, you know, it's like my son's at Auburn right now. He's got his courses, and there's a 100-seat class, but they're only going to take 50 and you got to get a reservation to go to class. If you can't go, then you'll watch it
Virtually.
on this virtually. I'm good with that. What I don't like is doing virtually all the time.
Yeah.
I think you
Got to be in the classroom.
I think you got to compete with the other students. You got to be able to ask professors questions after class. I mean, you know, I had to go up and I had to do a lot of asking questions. Now, how was you doing this?
I was in that boat too.
Yeah, and so, you know, it's that personal touch that we got to have, but we got to get back to school. But we're going to play football. I'm hoping. I wish we could have played 12 games. I don't know why we went to 10.
We're going to 10.
If we're going to play 12, I mean 10. Why don't we play 12? But
I'm all for it.
But we're wanting it because we want to go watch them. You know. But I think we'll play 10 games SEC, all SEC. I think
That's interesting. isn't it?
Auburn's playing everybody but Vanderbilt and Florida.
That's right.
And 5 home, 5 away. Yeah, it'll be good. But at least we're giving it a shot.
It's going to be just like everything in 2020. It's been unique. So, you know, are we seeing the first thing basically from a Power 5? This COVID thing's kind of forced this issue, but we've kind of all thought about the Power 5 splitting away and kind of being their own deal. You're seeing them make their own decisions about how they want to run their conference and do that. Are we seeing the first stage of them kind of separating away from the rest of college football? And I'm talking about all the other lower divisions.
Yeah.
And if that happens, Coach, these other schools, these other smaller schools that depend on those paychecks, that they schedule the Auburns and the Alabamas and the Floridas and the Georgias, and these schools write them $1 million check to come play them. Well, that's the majority of their budget for athletics.
Yeah.
I mean, I know UConn, which isn't playing this year. Now they just canceled their whole season, but they had 3 games of Power 5 teams, And when those Power 5 conferences said we're not playing anybody out of conference,
They got no money.
They lost $5 million.
Yeah. Well, I was at South Alabama a couple of days ago, and they had lost Florida and a couple more, and they're going to lose about $3 million. $3 million to 90% of the teams. 90% across this country is almost their budget.
Think about how many kids, if these programs go away, they don't have a chance to play.
Yeah.
They don't have a scholarship.
Well, we're a different animal in the SEC. You know, they get $50 million just for TV rights. And so that's the reason they got to be on TV. Now, Auburn and Alabama and is going to lose a ton of money because I'd be shocked if they put more than 25% in the stadium.
You think we'll have people in the stands?
Well, I would hope.
Penn State came out yesterday and said no fans.
Well, that's, you know where that's at. So,
I just don't want it to trickle down. I mean, one domino falls.
Yeah, don't do away with tailgating. It would be good.
Please.
But I think that you got to have the band. You got to have the students. You know, you got to have the parents.
Yeah.
And put some people in the stands. I think you can start out slower, and each week the conference needs to make the call. Don't let the schools make the call.
That's right.
Because then you'll have Auburn and Alabama go. I'm just saying this. We want everybody to go, and then you'll have Ole Miss and them say, no, we're only going to do 20%. I mean, everybody's got to be on the same page when it comes. If we're going to have a champion, then we're going to send somebody to the SEC championship game, then go to national championship game or the +1. Everybody's got to be on the same page.
Everybody's got to be on the same page.
Yeah.
All right, lightning round. I know you're busy, man. I know you got some more to go. You're constantly moving. We just talked about that. I do want to ask you one more thing about something, and then we'll hit a lightning round. I'm going to ask you about 3 or 4 questions. We're going to answer them fast.
Okay.
The NCAA came out and said they're going to allow players to put messages on their jerseys, statements on their uniforms for this year. Well, once the toothpaste is out of the tube, I mean, are you going to tell them they can't do that next year? Well, first of all, what's your thoughts on allowing players to put individual messages on their uniform?
I don't know where they're going with it. I mean, because you're going to have so many different groups over the short period of time. Well, we want to put this, we want to put that, and we always had a uniform that was the same. In other words, you had a NCAA patch, and then you had an SEC patch.
Right.
And then they gave you a waiver if you had a kid that passed away.
Yeah.
That you dedicated
and
you
put
put something here. Yeah. You know what? I'd have to look at it to see what I thought about it. If they do it in a fashion that everybody's pretty much on the same level, but you don't want to do it just to be doing it. You don't want to get involved in politics.
Well, I just think you don't think about some things because you've got some groups that'll want to take advantage of that for the wrong reasons. I mean, not 95%, 98% are going to do the right thing, and maybe they will want to send something that they're passionate about. But you can't. Are you going to tell that person they can't put that on there, and this person they can put this on there? I mean, I just think it's a sticky wicket. Mm-hmm. All right, Coach. What did you enjoy most about coaching?
Players.
Players.
It's like a family, and that's what I miss most of going. And you and all the other coaches, which are like brothers. I mean, you fight amongst each other. You laugh. You cry. You go to weddings. You go to funerals. And then you got 120 players, and every day I'd go in that dressing room. A lot of people, for some reason, they forget that it's about those players. It ain't about you as a coach. It's about those players. I always tell my coaches, even before or after, you make sure you go through and talk to the other. So if you're the quarterback coach, you go talk to the defensive lineman. Get to know them. Just don't go in there and talk to your players because it is such an individual sport, especially in college when you got positions and you got kickers and you got offense, defense. So you try to get everybody knowing everybody, understanding each other, and just make it a big family.
Yeah. Is there any one player that stands out to you over your coaching career?
Oh, I had some good ones. I had some good ones. I tell you, I had a lot of them that came and you'd say on the first day, you go, you're going to have a tough time playing. And then they would shock you. Because they took the bull by the horn, they ran with it, and they made the best out of it. And then, unfortunately, you're going to have some come in there that are supposedly 4 or 5 stars. You say, man, we have hit the jackpot with this guy, and he come in and never got any better because they believed everything that they read. We always call it, we got to de-recruit him. when he comes in. We got to put him in his place real quick.
Yeah.
Some accepted, some didn't.
That's got to be tough. So you it's part of the game. You try to do everything you can to get them in there, and then when reality hits, some don't respond. Any one game in your whole career that you stand out, you think about, you're like, man, that one is just.
There was a lot of them as an assistant, as a head coach. I guess
I'm gonna say as a head coach.
As a head coach, probably, I think it was around 2001. Spurrier we were good friends, good golfing buddies, and he just beat the heck out of me every time because that's back on his run. Where if he didn't win a national championship, he was second. They had those quarterbacks. What they call his offense?
Fun and gun.
Fun and gun.
Fun and gun.
And so he'd tell me in pregame, well, I got to score some points today. Yeah, go ahead, Steve. Score all the points you want. That makes me feel good. Yeah, it was most of those when I was at Ole Miss.
Yeah.
But he come in and about mid-season, they were ranked number 1, and came to Auburn, and
I remember
and we had a good team, not a great team, and I'd lost both linebackers in the game previous, and I'm starting 2 guys and they never started a game, and fortunately Steve came in, I don't know, 21, 24-point underdog. It was national television, ESPN.
Oh yeah.
And he comes and he tries to run the ball. He kept running it and throwing it right to us. We'd catch it, and I'm thinking if we ever start running it, we're in trouble. And we just held in there, and I forget, Carlos Rogers, I think, intercepted a ball and ran it out to about the 30, and right at the end with about 2 minutes to go, and we somehow managed to make a few first downs, and Damon Duval kicked one of those big old banana hooks with the wind, and it goes through, and I couldn't believe it, we won. And so we're walking across the field, and I don't know why I said this. I had to go, shook hands with Steve, and why didn't you run the ball? And that didn't go over too good. Didn't go over too good.
Well, Coach, I tell you real quick, like to end, you're in this state, you're running. Obviously, you coached at Auburn, so you're having to get support from Alabama fans out there, and I'm sure you guys are having a fun time in the banner back and forth. I'm sure there's some guy out there that said, I never thought in a million years when Auburn was beating us 6 years in a row that I'd ever strike a ballot for the coach that I hated the most. But I've had them come up and tell me, they go, look, I hated him when he was at Auburn, but I voted for him. It's funny to hear that now. I just can imagine them sitting there going, I can't believe I'd ever do that. But
and most of them say, Coach, we know you'll win for us. I have nobody come up and said, I can't pull the trigger on it. I can't. I tell you, and I've gotten a lot, of course, obviously, this state is, heavily Alabama in a lot in percentage. Yeah. And we actually won Tuscaloosa County in the last election. And, I looked at that and I'm thinking, we're making progress.
It's not the first time you've won in Tuscaloosa.
But I'll tell you, I've spent a lot of time over there. And I tell people when I got in this, when I was at Auburn, I had as many Alabama friends as I had Auburn friends, it was always a battle. We're out eating, talking about it, but that's what's good about sports, and that's we don't really realize. Most people don't realize how good we have it in this state with all the good teams, not just Auburn and Alabama, but Jacksonville State, South Alabama, Troy, all that. And it's unbelievable, and we don't have that many 5-star and 4-star. Now we got a lot of 3-stars and 2-stars that really work well. And the kids in this state are well coached from the high school level. And it's just, but it's fun to have that competition between teams.
Coach, is always a fun time when we get together.
Thank you.
Can we shake hands?
Yeah.
We both tested. We both got hand sanitizer.
I got the stuff you put on it lasts 6 hours, they say.
I still shake hands.
Yeah.
It's just a habit.
Well, so. It's important that we understand it is dangerous.
Yeah,
everybody needs to take care, do what they tell you to do, and if we do that, we might get back to the football field this year.
We might do it. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Coach, be safe on the road. Right. Always a pleasure sitting down with you.
You too.
Thank you.